Welcome back to LarryB YouTube channel. In today's class, we are going to learn how to draft and cut this beautiful overbust corset that we see here. I'm going to be taking you through the drafting process and cutting, and in another video I'm going to take you through how to sew this easily and neatly. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to do this, you can see that I already have my measurements drafted here. I'm using pencil because I may need to clean up some things. Okay, so but for the important lines, let me just try to bold this with a marker. So this is my chest line, this is the bust point, this is the under bust, this is the half length, also the waistline, and this is the blouse length. Okay, so labeling it now. This is the chest line, this is the bust point, under bust, this is the waist, and this is the blouse length. Okay, so this is my armhole, my shoulder slope, and then whatever neckline that you want to work with, although we don't need neckline in this case. So now the next measurement I'm going to be taking is the round measurement. That's the round bust, the round hip, the round waist, and everything. So here I'm going to take my round bust measurement, and that's 40 inches. These are the measurements I'm working with. Let me explain to you first. The bust is 40, the round bust is 40, the round waist is 34 inches, and the round hip on the blouse length, that's the upper hip, that's 42 inches. That's where the blouse length is going to rest. Okay, so for this I'm not going to touch it. That's the bust. For the blouse length area as well, I'm not going to touch it. The only thing that we're going to do is on the waistline. We're going to be reducing the waist. We're going to cinch it by, depending on what you want, you can reduce it by 3, 4, 6 inches, depending on how much you want to go and what your client can take. So in this case, my waist is 34, but I want to reduce it by 6 inches, so that's going to leave me with a waist of 28 inches. Okay, that's the reduction that we're going to achieve by the time we are done with drafting this. But this actual waist is 34, so that's what we are working with for now. So the bust measurement that I'm working with is 40 divided by 4 is 10 inches. So here I'm going to mark 10 inches. You can see I'm not adding any allowance to this yet. So for my waist, the waist is 34 divided by 4 is 8.5 inches. So here I have 8.5 inches, and then for my 1 inch waist dart, I'm going to add that dart allowance. I'm not adding any seam allowance, I'm only adding the dart allowance of 1 inch that we normally add to our waistline. And then for the blouse length, the blouse is, the hip, round hip is 42 divided by 4 is 10.5. So here I'm going to mark 10.5, and then I'm going to connect everything together. So I'm connecting from my waist to my hip. Please note there's no allowance to this. The only 1 inch allowance that I added is the allowance that I used on my waistline. That's half an inch on both sides, which amounted to 1 inch. You can see I just use pencil to draw it out here so that you see it and not be confused, although this is not the actual dart that we're going to work with. Okay, so now the next measurement that I'm going to work with now is my bust pant measurement. That's the nipple to nipple. For me, that's 8 inches, so that's going to be 4 inches for me. So here 8 divided by 2 is 4. So here I'm going to mark 4 inches. You can see from here I'm marking 4 inches for my bust pant, which is that. Okay, so now this is like a Victorian corset, depending on what you want, how you want your dart leg to look like. But in this case, if you look at the thumbnail very well, it's not straight. I don't want my dart leg to be straight. So because of that, for it to have this slant effect, the 4 inches that I took here, I'm not going to be taking it on this part. So here I'm going to reduce it and then mark 2.5 inches on this side. Okay, so after marking 2.5 inches on this side, I'm going to go ahead and connect. I want to simplify this as much as possible, so I'm just going to be going straight to the point. So you can see what I am doing here. Instead of marking 4 inches on all lines and making it straight, I have bent it a little bit. Now I'm going to be taking my dart. So here, remember, we already on the waistline, we already took 1/2 inch on both sides. That's 1 inch, which was the 1 inch allowance that we added by the side here. So for tightening again, I'm going to add 1/2 inch to each side. So that's going to be 1 inch on each side. Please don't get confused. Okay, so let's say this is our line. Now we added 1 inch allowance to the side, so that's 1/2 inch on both sides. Okay, that's 1/2 inch on both sides, and then we connected that to the bust point, just like this. I hope you are understanding that. I'm using pencil because this is not my actual dart line. So now this 1 inch that we have here is what we have replaced on the side, so that we will not have any issue with our measurements. So now for tightening, I'm going to further add 1/2 inch to this. So this will mean I'm taking a total of 1 inch dart on both sides. So now I'm going to use marker because this is the final measurement that I'm working with. So I'm taking 1 inch on this side and I'm taking 1 inch on this side, which means that, remember, I only added 1 inch extra allowance to this. So if you check what I have here, I have 2 inches. It means I have 1 inch allowance added already. So the extra 1 inch that I've not added is going to serve like a shortage. So we have started snatching the waist here already. So now here I already snatched this by 1 inch extra because I have 2 inches now. I've already taken out 2 inches from this waist, but I've only added 1 inch allowance to it. So the remaining 1 inch that I have that is not added here, I have taken it out of my waist. So please remember that. So now 1 inch is out of our 8.5 inches measurement. Remember, our actual waist is 34. 34 divided by 4 gave us 8.5 inches. Remember, this is just 1/4 of the full body. So now from this 8.5, now we have taken out 1 inch, 1.0. So now we are left with 7.5. And we want to reduce this waist to 28 inches. Actually, this 28 inches divided by 4 is going to give us 7, which means what we are trying to reduce this waistline to is 7 inches. Now I've taken 1 inch out from this place, so now I have 7.5. It means I still have 0.5, that is half, to reduce to achieve these 7 inches that I need. So I hope you understand that. So this measurement, this 1 inch that I took here, I'm going to take it on my under bust as well. From my bust pan measurement, I'm taking 1 inch on both sides, and I'm going to be taking the same 1 inch on the hem. That's the blouse length. So now here you can take 0.75 if you want. I'm taking 1 inch from mine. So now I'm going to connect all these 3 points together like this and like this. I'm going to shade out the dart so that we can see it clearly. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to take my curve ruler and connect this to my bust point. So I'll just come down by around 1/2 inch and then connect like this on both sides. Like this. This is a very good curve, and when you are done connecting, make sure that you don't have any parts sharp. So just try to blend everything in like that. Okay, so now we are done with this. The next thing now is to create our shoulder dart. So just like we normally do, to create this shoulder dart, I'm going to mark what I have on my shoulder, and then I'll divide that into 2. So from there I'm going to connect to my bust point, which is here. So there's another important measurement that you need to take, which is your over bust. So this over bust kind of acts like a guide. Okay, when you are drawing out your neckline, for me, I use the over bust measurements as an indication to know where I'm going to stop. Okay, that's from your nipple. You're going to measure from your nipple. This is the bust point, which is the nipple area, upward, how exposed you want the bust to be. So for me, 3.5 4 inches, from 3.5 4 inches, 4.5 is okay, depending on how high you want it to be at the bust pan area. So let's say I'm working with 3.75 or 3.5 inches. That is going to be here. That's from my bust point line. So let me just mark that out and connect. So this measurement that we have here now is our over bust line. Okay, so now that we are done with this, my front and back half length, I already drafted the back. By the time I bring it the back, you understand what I'm saying. My front and back half length have different measurements, and it have a shortage of 2.25 inches. That's the difference that I have from my front half length and my back half length. So this is my front half length here. You can see I have about 17 inches here, and for the back half length, you can see I have about 14.25. so you can see what I have here. That's about 2.25 inches difference. So the difference that I have, I'm going to be taking it as my bust dart. That's 2.25, and then I'm going to mark that here and connect to my bust point, just like this. These are still things that we normally do for our bustier. Okay, so I hope you are not confused. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to tighten the over bust area. So to tighten this over bust area, I'm going to be opening this shoulder dart and then close my bust dart so that I can transfer the dart that I have to this side. So to do that, I'll try to separate the front and back so that I'll be able to fold this dart. So the first thing I'll do is to open up the shoulder line up to the bust point area. Okay, so when you are done doing that, I'm going to go ahead now and fold my bust dart. Okay, so we're just folding the darts on each other like this. That's what I'm doing. So you can see now my bust dart is folded. So I'll just hold it tentatively with a pin so that it can stay in place. So now this is what I have for my bust dart, and you can see that this dart now is already transferred to the shoulder. So to do the tightening that we want to do on the shoulder area, depending on how much tightening we want to do, it can start from 40%, okay, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%. 50% is the normal, is the usual one that I normally use. So to do this, I will measure the space, the distance that I have on this shoulder dart. So now I'm taking my tape now and measuring that. So here I have 3.5 inches. So to create this tightening, like I said, you can do 40-50%. The general measurement, this general formula they are going to need to create this is this dart that we have taken here. Okay, the dart that we are taking here, which is 3.5, that's your dart divided by 100 times whatever percentage that you want to take. So let's say you are taking 30%, you write times 30/1. If you are taking 50%, you write 50/1. If you are taking 60%, you write 60/1. So here I'm taking 50%, and then I'm going to write 50/1. I hope you understand that. So now the dart here that I measured is 3.5, so which means I'll have 3.5/100 times 50/1. So here, if I cancel out this, I'll need to multiply this and divide whatever I have by 10. Okay, so if you multiply 3.5 by 5, you're going to have 17.5. That's divided by 10. So if you divide it, it means you're going to have 1.75. So this is the tightening that I'm going to do. I hope you understand that. So what I'm going to do first is to extend this shoulder by this 1.75 that I have here. So I'm just going to take my ruler and then extend my shoulder line, my shoulder slant line. So now on that extension, I'm going to mark out 1.75 that we got here. Okay, so now after extending that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to take this 1.75 on both sides for my tightening. If 50% tightening is too much for you, you can do 40% as well. So now I'm going to take my ruler and then connect from that point to my bust point on both sides. So the tightening that we have done here, you're going to see it on the overbust line, so you can see. It means we have taken out on the overbust line, we have taken out about 0.75 on both sides, so you can see. So this is the tightening that we are doing. So after creating that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to redraw my armhole. Remember, this is no longer my shoulder point. I already have an extension there. So I'm going to place my ruler now and then redraw this armhole. That's why I did this armhole with the pencil. So this is my new armhole curve. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is to create the neckline of choice that I want to work with. So to do this, I'm going to open this dart and then I'm going to slash the middle open so that I can close up this dart as well, this shoulder dart, for me to be able to draw out my neckline easily. So you can see me trying to close this up. So you can see I'm just folding the dart lines on each other like this, so you can see what I'm doing. So now you need to determine how low you want your neck depth to be. So I'm going for like a U neckline. Okay, something like this. You can also do sit-out neckline if you want. So for that, I think 8 inches or 8.5. I want it a little low, so I can work with maybe 8 inches. Okay, and then after folding it up like this, on my armhole area, you can just measure maybe 5 inches downwards or 4 inches or wherever it is you want it to be, and then you place your ruler. So now after closing up my dart, I'm going to place the ruler in such a way that it goes through my overbust, okay, upwards like that. So this is my overbust. You can see that's the first measurement there, and then it's just going to go upward. So if you want it to be high like this, you can do that. If you want it lower, you can just adjust your ruler. But I think I want the U neckline to be pronounced, so I'm just going to go with what I have here. here, which is this. So now my neckline is drawn, and this is what I have for the neckline. So closing the dart is going to make it easy for you. By the time you are sewing it, you won't have one side longer than the other. So now that my neckline is drawn, I'm going to close my bust dart again. I'm going to close my bust dart again, and then we're going to continue with our tightening, with our waist reduction. So now for that, I'm going to create another dart line by this side. Okay, so this dart line as well, I want it to be slanted, just like I have for the first one. So for that, you can measure what you have here on your side and divide that into 2, or you can just measure. I think I'm just going to measure maybe 3 inches or 3.5 inches on this side, and then on the lower part from where the first dart leg stops, I'm going to measure 2 to 2.5 inches. So after measuring that, I'm going to take my ruler and then connect them upward like this to my armhole. That's my new armhole, like that. Okay, so now after connecting this, remember that we are doing a 6 inches bust tightening. 6 inches means that we are taking 6 inches from the entire round waist. So this is our round full waist. Okay, that's, you have, this is half of the front, there's another half for the front, and then you have another 2 sides for the back. So this is 1/4 that we are doing now. This is half of the front. So let's say this is our full weight. Okay, this is front, and this is back. So this is half of front, half of back, half of back. So what we have on this table here is just one side of the front. Remember, there's another side when you open it out. Okay, that's why these 6 inches that we are taking, we are going to divide it by 4 because we have 4 sides, and we are going to have 1.5. That's why I'm taking 1.5 from here. And remember that 1.5, I already took out 1 inch when I was doing the tightening here. I took out 1 inch, that's half inch on both sides. So I'm left to 7.5. So what I'm taking now is the 0.5 there, so that I will have the 7 inches, because I want to reduce this waist from 8.5 inches to 7 inches. I hope that is clear. So now this 0.5 that I want to take out, I'm going to be taking it out on this side. So if you divide 0.5 into 2, you are going to have 0.25. So on my waistline, I'm going to take out 0.25 on both sides. I'm going to do this on my hip line as well. I'm taking out 0.25 on both sides. So 0.25 plus 0.25 is going to give you half an inch, which means you have successfully taken out the 1.5 waist matching that we want to take out. We took half an inch here, half an inch here. That's half plus half is 1. Now we are taking 0.25 here, 0.25. That's half an inch. So together we have taken out 1.5 inches. So now I'm going to take my ruler and then connect these darts. Okay. And then from here I'm going to connect to the upper part, which is here, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I hope that is clear. So I'm going to shade out this dart so that we're going to understand it. So now you can see that you have taken so many darts on our hip line. My actual hip is 10.5, so clearly this is no longer 10.5. So what I'm going to do now is to replace all the darts that I have taken. I took 2 inches on this side, and here on this side I took half an inch. So that's a total of 2.5 inches that I have taken. So here on this side I'm going to replace the 2.5 inches, and then I'm going to reconnect this. So here, after closing the darts here as well, you can see that we have a little bit of shortage on that side. So I'm going to redraw that. I'm using a marker now because this is like the actual side seam line that I want to have, that I'm going to have. So here now I'm going to connect this to my new hip measurement as well, and make sure that we threw out all the sharp points. So now that we have done that, so can leave it like this, but on the hem of the blouse I want it a little bit shaped, so you can see I'm coming up by 2.5 inches, and then I'm going to connect that to the side like this. Okay, so this is what my pattern looks like now. So I am gonna hide to shade out the dots so you can see clearly the part that we need to cut out. So now you can label this pattern before you cut it out so that I don't get confused. You can label it 1, 2, 3, or you can label it center front, middle front, side front, or you can just do 1, 2, 3, whichever one is fine for you is what you're going to work with. So now we're going to quickly move to the back. Of course, the back is simple because we are not doing many things on the back like we have done to the front. So again, these are my lines. This is my chest line, this is the back half length, and this is the blouse length for the back. Okay, so just like I did for the front as well, I'm going to mark my round measurements. So for the front, that's 10 inches, 40 divided by 4 for the bust, sorry. For the hip, for the waist is 8.5 plus 9.5 that allowance plus 1 inch that allowance. That's going to give me 9.5, just like we did for the front. And then for the hip is 42 divided by 4 is 10.5. so now what we are going to be doing to the waist also is the reduction. We are not touching the bust, we are not touching the hip, we are only reducing the waist. Remember that for the waist, for the front, we took out 1.5, which by the time we cut double of this is going to be 3 inches for the front. So the same thing is what we are going to do for the back. We have only half of the back. This is not the full back, this is just half of the back. So for that, we are going to be taking out 1.5 inches from this as well. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to be working with 2 dark lines, just like I did for the front. So for the back, what I'm going to do is to measure the total waist that I have, and then I'm going to divide that into 3. So this is 9.5, so dividing that into 3, I'll just have around 3 inches and probably a bar. Okay, so I'm dividing this into 3 now. I'm dividing this pattern, this flat pattern, into 3 parts. So after dividing it, I'm going to connect it into a straight line, just like this. Okay, so after connecting into a straight line like this, I hope you're seeing this. The next thing is to start taking our dart on the waist. So the first dart I'm going to be taking is the 1 inch. Remember, when we were doing this, our actual measurement is 8.5, but we added 1 inch dart allowance, the regular 1 inch dart allowance, just like we added to the front. So now that's the first dart I'm going to be taking, that 1 inch. So I'll take half an inch on both sides for this. This is not going to cause any shortage. This is just going to restore my waist measurement to the actual 8.5. Remember, we have 9.5 now, and the actual waist measurement is 8.5. So we added extra 1 inch. That 1 inch is what I have taken. So now the next dart I'm going to be taking is the 1.5 inches reduction. So here on this second line, I'm going to take half an inch on both sides. Half an inch on both sides means that I'm taking out 1 inch from the 1.5 reduction. So if I have taken out 1 inch from 1.5, it means I still need to take out half an inch to complete the 1.5 inches that intake. So for that half an inch, I'm going to be taking it on the side. So here on the side, I'm going to take a dart of half an inch, and then I'm going to connect it. So you can see now that we have successfully taken out our, this is not showing, we have successfully taken out our 1.5. This 1 inch is the actual regular waist dart that I added by the side. Okay, so this one and this half is the 1.5 inches dart that we are taking. That's the dart intake, the snatching that we are doing to make the total snatching to be 28 inches. And we want to confirm this. Remember, our actual waistline is 8.5. Now that we have snatched it, it has gone to 7 inches. So let's check what we have here. If you mark what we have here, I have about 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to take the 2.5 inches, skip the dart, and then continue the measurement. Okay, so here I have 4.5. So here I'll take the 4.5, skip that, and continue the measurement. You can see I have 7 inches for this. So for the front as well, on the waistline, if you start taking your measurements, I have 2.5 here. If I skip the 2.5 and then continue the measurement, I have about 5.25 here. So if I skip that now and continue my measurement, so you can see 5.25, and I place it here, you can see I have 7 inches, which is the dart line that I need. So if you place the 5.25 on the second dart leg, not the first dart leg, you have your 7 inches, which is your new waistline. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to create the neckline for the back. So for the back, I'm going to work with a lower neckline. So 9.5 is what I'm working with, and then I'm going to take my curved ruler and then connect this to the side. So that's the neckline for the back. And then for the side of the back, remember I came up by 2.5 inches for the front, so I'm doing the same thing for the back as well, and then I'm going to connect it. You don't have to do up to 2.5 inches. I just want it a little pronounced. That's why I'm doing that. 2 inches, 1.5 is okay. So this is what I need to do. I'm going to shade out this dart as well, but before we do that, we're going to be placing the back. So for that opening that we have at the center back for lacing, depending on how open you want yours to be, but for me here, I'm going to mark around 1.25. So if I mark 1.25, it means by the time I lace it open, it's going to have like 2.5 inches gap. So if you want more, maybe if you want 3 inches, it means I'm going to mark 1.5 on this side. So it's totally up to you and what you want. So I'm marking that, and then on the lower part, I'm going to mark 0.75 so that I'll have that V-shape effect. So this is going to be taken out. Okay, I'm going to shade it that this is going to be taken out, and this is where we're going to be having our lacing. So here I'm going to have a boning on that part to strengthen it, and then on this side here is where I'm going to be making my eyelet holes. I hope you understand that now. So I'm going to shade out this dart also, so that you will see what I'm doing very well. If you feel that your dart is too close to this part, you can actually shift your dart to this side. That's if you want, but I'm okay with what I have here, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. I have shaded out the darts now, and you can clearly see the ones that are not